Good morning and a warm welcome to you all. The sermon or address I'm about to read is based on the John text for this Good Friday. It's basically the account of Jesus' passion, trial and execution. Made any tough decisions lately? Throughout the course of our lives, we are confronted with situations where we are sometimes forced to bite that proverbial bullet. But biting the bullet, as the term suggests, entails a degree of pain and suffering. The problem is that the pain does not stop at the one who has to make the decision, but as you well know, it extends to all of those whom that decision now affects. Being in a position of responsibility, of course, means making those tough decisions. With any tough decision, someone will always lose out. Evidence of this is our federal government's dilemma in relation to providing stimulus for our stricken economy. Coronavirus, as you know, plays no favourites, and its ravages are being felt by every sector of our society. Already, speculation exists that some in our community will have to go with less, or even without, as the effects of social distancing take effect. Sadly for some, such circumstances will mean having to sacrifice all they've worked for, and perhaps everything they hope to obtain. But if you think that making tough decisions are the domain of 21st century governments, or for that matter financial institutions, in order to deal with the effects of pandemics, then spare a thought for Pontius Pilate. On the issue of Jesus, the local populace have pressured him as the one who can exercise authority on the behalf of Rome to hand Jesus over to be executed in order to do their local work, their dirty work. Pilate is aware that their motives are personal and do not serve the interests of either his career or that of the state, and yet he seeks to extradite himself from a politically sensitive situation by offering an option in which he hopes they will take up, at least for his sake. But with every tough decision, someone always gets hurt. Pilate, instead of making the tough decision and choosing in favour of justice, passes that decision on to others, and in doing so, allows injustice to occur. Pilate's offer to release either Barabbas or Jesus was in essence a move to cover himself. He had the power to declare a mistrial, and in that case release Jesus. But instead, he chooses the path of political expediency. His actions are not in the interests of justice, nor are they in the interests of humanity. This issue, this Jesus question, is becoming too hot to handle, and Pilate dare not risk a civil disturbance amongst the people. So he abrogates his authority and lets the people make that decision for him. In doing so, they reject his preferred candidate and instead pass judgment upon Jesus. Jesus' trial, in effect, puts us on trial, and the verdict we handed down was the punishment we so deserved. Yet, by deferring punishment to the people and allowing them to choose, the people have brought judgment upon themselves. Given the choice of justice over injustice, they decide to stick with what they know. Choosing a murderer over an innocent man belies the very essence of our human condition. For their choice is not a preference between the lesser of two unpopular candidates, but it's a rejection of God's love. In essence, however, We are no different than those who sought Jesus' blood. When given the choice, I would suggest that we too would also choose Barabbas. For we, by our sinful nature, are also confronted by the righteousness of Jesus. In the light of Christ, our self-interest is also exposed as well as our sin. For the sake of our self-interest, we are also willing to let someone else bear our shame and guilt by whatever means at our disposal. For Jesus' death was not just the result of an act of injustice or a judicial mistrial, but it was also the response of a fallen humanity to God's offer of grace. For it is the sin within us that has also conspired, along with Pilate and the Jewish religious authorities, to nail Jesus to that cross. In the account of Jesus' passion, violence, injustice, and self-justification are our response to God's act of divine love. Yet, God still takes this injustice upon himself and instead allows the unjust to become justified by believing in the atonement that Jesus has made for our sin. In sending his Son to the cross to die in our place, God has made the tough decision. In relation to deciding our eternal destiny, God handed his only beloved Son over to those who would crucify him, in order that injustice may be served so that others might live. For it is out of an act of love, not malice, that God allowed those who were guilty of murdering his Son to be pardoned. For like Barabbas, we too have also been pardoned because God allowed an innocent man to die in our place. That's what Good Friday is all about. Made any tough decisions lately? In the suffering of his crucifixion and death, we have the assurance that God has decided for us. The depths of God's feelings for his dearly beloved Son, beloved and yet fallen creation, was not damnation, but instead it was redemption. Jesus, suffering and death, made peace with God. And so, may this peace of God, which surpasses all human understanding, continue to keep both your hearts and minds in the one who suffered our injustice, so that we may be pardoned. Our Lord and Saviour, Christ Jesus. Amen.